Martin in Texas. Martin, go ahead.
Hey guys, I just want to say I listen to both of your shows. You know, every day they're out, and you're not being negative. It's just that we've been in Groundhog Day for the past 3 years. But anyway, the bottom line is it's not 1 in 30 chances. It's really 1 in 6 because all you have to do is get in. I think all the teams that have been to the playoffs and made it as far as they have the past few years have proved that because the best team on paper is not won the World Series since we did in 2018. So it's not 1 in 30. It's 1 in 6.
Okay, so Martin, again, but the point is we're talking about the start of the season. So he's not wrong to say like 1 in 10 or 1 in 12, you know, because they're probably going into any season, 10 or 12 teams in the big leagues that have a legitimate chance to win the World Series. 20 or 30 is preposterous. I mean, there are like nobody is picking the Colorado Rockies to win the World Series before the season starts.
No, they do not have a 1 in 30 chance.
No, and the Red Sox should be one of the halves. They should be have a chance every year. It should be no worse than 1 in 10.
Yeah, I mean that previous caller before Martin that said like, oh, the Red Sox should be thanking that the rest of the league why they're 500. It's like, no, I mean they should thank the AL East why they're not in last place because I think 500 in years past, you would be in last place with a 500 record because all the other teams had winning records. But to say anything other than that, yeah, that's just not true. Like the rest of the league, it doesn't matter. The Red Sox have been 500 for 3 straight years.
And to your point, it's not about winning a championship every year. It's about the illusion of a championship, not the illusion of contention.
Be interesting.
Right. As what Shaughnessy's comment or description is the illusion of contention. It's not about the illusion of contention. It's about the illusion of a championship. So give me a team that I think can make a run every year.
Yeah.
That's all.
Sure.
That's what the reality is.
In 2011, the Red Sox got off to that awful start. But it's like you look at the roster and this team can go on a run. This team can have the best record in baseball for 3 straight months, 4 straight months. And then they did.
Right.
They fell apart in September. But they gave you the illusion of like this is a team that on paper, of course they can go 3 straight months with being the best team in baseball. It sucks that they had a bad start, but the illusion that this team is championship material, of course it's there. This team, no. Like yes, they're 500. I believe they're 34 and 34. They've been to 500 17 times.
Yeah, that's right.
17 times. Under no circumstance would I look at this roster. All due respect to Tristan Casas, even when he comes back, that they're going to, play 650 ball for 2 months or something like that?
Correct.
Are they capable of that?
No, they're not good enough.
No.
That team in 2011, I think, played like 670 ball for those middle 2 months.
No, it was
4 months. 4 months.
Yeah, it was from May up until September 1st, pretty much.
Then they collapsed.
Yep.
It was the beginning and the end that did them in. Let me ask you about Theo Epstein because you mentioned him. He's now part of the ownership group. Mm-hmm. Someone who cares, someone who will inspire some urgency, who, in effect, what you're saying is Theo would become the old Larry Lucchino.
Yes, which is exactly what this organization needs.
Do you think Theo cares like he used to?
No, but I think he cares enough. I don't think he cares as much as he did when, he took over for Mike Port in 2003.
Yep.
I as a young, hungry executive trying to make a name for himself, I think it's impossible to,
replicate that.
Yeah, duplicate the fire of a young executive trying to make a name for himself in an organization that hasn't won a World Series title in 86 years, and you're from here. That's quite the combo of factors. Do I think that he still cares about the success of the Boston Red Sox? I do. It's almost kind of like welcoming the challenge of like, man, like look what they did to my baby. I came in here when they introduced Theo Epstein for the first time. He said, "I'm going to make this a drafting and developmental machine." And he did that while also spending John Henry's money very strategically, because it got to a point towards the end there where, you mentioned Tom Warner as the Nesson guy. And if you read Terry Francona's book, that's when they wanted to make sexy signings, not baseball signings. Like Theo Epstein was like, I'm going to spend your money, but we're going to go out there and we're going to get it baseball players. Tom Warner wanted ratings players, and that's how you end up with Carl Crawford when you already have Jacoby Ellsbury, and that's how you end up with Hanley Ramirez when he can't play the outfield. Things unraveled after Theo. Do I think that he cares enough to get it back to that point in time where they made smarter baseball decisions? I do, and I kind of put that on Breslow as well as Theo being his mentor, and it's the Theo coaching tree. I feel good about it, but it's just not going to be the quick, immediate fix that we all would hope that it would be.
So you're not going to find many people who believe in Theo Epstein more than I do. Okay. And when I say believe in him, I don't think he's perfect. I don't think, Theo's a human being. He's got flaws like everybody else. But I think very highly of his acumen. I think for the most part, Theo's a straight shooter, good guy. Like, there's a lot to like in Theo Epstein. He is now, what, 48?
Yeah, he's got to be pushing 50. Yeah.
Something like that. He's somewhere around there. He's 48 years old. When did he leave the Cubs? So he's been out of day-to-day baseball for 5 years?
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe more. I know he certainly helped with the pitch clock and stuff like that, but now he's quote unquote back with Fenway Sports Group or part of Fenway Sports Group in an ownership capacity, however small that is. And in theory, he's going to help out with the sports entities, like even the Pittsburgh Penguins or what have you, offer his 2 cents on the league, the teams that are in leagues, maybe not the PGA Tour, although the commissioner of the PGA Tour is Jay Monahan, who was once part of Fenway Sports Group. So they've got their fingers in everything. But I'm not sure Theo cares like he used to. And I'm not picking on him for it. He's a different person. It's a different life. So is Theo just going to is he the one that's going to go to John Henry and say, listen, you got to kick the payroll up by $30 million. You got to bring in some veteran guys. You got to put a more representative team on the field. Or is that Breslow's job and he's the day-to-day operation?
Both. It's Breslow's job, but I think Theo cares enough to do that.
Okay, I hope you're right.
He has John's ear because if you recall, I mean, this is more for the listeners. I know that you know this. But when Theo Epstein wanted to split the first time in 2006, it was John Henry that went and got him back. Like, that's their relationship, where John Henry sees the value in someone like Theo Epstein. It's not bringing someone in who I think, not to, speak negatively about Chaim Bloom. I liked him a lot, but I don't think that Chaim, if the general manager type role is the financial advisor for the owner, I don't think that someone like Chaim had John's ear. I just don't think that
he's
that
not
was
going
the
to push
case.
back.
No, but Theo will, and he did. And when he doesn't get his way, he says, all right, fine, I'm leaving. And he's proven that. Like, it's not like a bluff. If you're not going to listen to me, if you're not going to, if I don't have pull, you hired me to do a job. If you're not going to let me do that to the fullest extent that I'm capable of doing it,
I'm gone.
Find someone else to do it then.
Yeah, I'm gone. So look, I hope that they're honest about that. I mean, Jared, frankly, I think it's like the only hope. It's the only hope. Because I don't trust Breslow to go into John Henry and say, listen, we got to do more with the players that we're bringing in here while we're waiting for our young players to develop, because these aren't playoff caliber players.
Well, if you're John Henry, are you listening to the voice of your the 20th name on your list for that position?
No, again, which is why this is precisely why they brought in Bloom in the first place, which brings me to the kind of player that they're bringing in, which we'll get to in a minute. This is the David Hamilton part of the program. We'll go.
Finally.
We'll take a quick break here, and we'll get to Hamilton when we come back. Wrap it up on the baseball hour. And him, Hamilton. He's now batting .296. He has an .820 OPS. He's 13 of 14 in stolen bases. He just hit his 4th home run. It's been good for the last month.
It's been really good.
Okay, dynamite. Now, he's not a shortstop, I don't think.
Definitely not.
Okay, but...
He can hit.
Okay, so here's my problem with it.
What's your problem, Tony? Always a problem with this guy. Do you want his numbers over the last 30 games?
Yeah, go.
337, 379 on base, a 539 slug. That's a 918 OPS. 3 home runs, 7 doubles, a triple. Weighted runs created plus a 155. That's really good.
Okay, so he's been good. Yeah. He has, and I'm not. So I'm starting to say, oh, you know what? Some of these guys that Bloom brought in are actually decent. Winkowski, decent. Go ahead.
I got nothing.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. You guys are like mortal enemies or something.
It's a one-way argument.
But the point is, some of these guys, okay. How old's Winkowski? 26?
Probably somewhere in there, yeah.
Okay. This guy, Hamilton, will be 27 in September, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Jarren Duran is now 27, going on 28.
Mm-hmm.
So all of these guys are now in the peak years of their career. So it occurred to me that, oh, I get it. Like, and it was never apparent to me before, and forgive me if I'm slow to figure this out, Jared, but I'm slow in general. That when you acquire these guys who aren't real prospects, when they get to the peak years of their careers, they might actually be big leaguers. Doesn't mean stars or starters, but big leaguers, because they will be at the max of their ability. So all of a sudden, if you get them at a certain age, then they hit their peak years. Now you can play them in the big leagues. Oh, so this is what Chaim Bloom was going after. He was going after David Hamilton because when he's 27, you can get a few years out of him and it might work. And Jarren Duran can play for a few years in the big leagues. And if you're in a place like Tampa, he's cheap and you can compete against teams in the big leagues that are bad, which is exactly what the Red Sox are doing this year. And Tanner Houck, by the way, is 28 or whatever he is, and has been, was drafted 7 years ago, but the point where he's 26, whatever the number is. And I like Houck, so Houck was a first-round talent. He might be an exception. But the point being, you can hang around, and these guys can play for 2 or 3 years, but you're really not building anything. Unless it's high draft picks like Marcelo Meyer, Kyle Teal, who's the other one? Anthony. Roman Anthony. And those guys are all in their early 20s. Those guys are real prospects when they get to the big leagues. They're in their early 20s. And they're potential stars. These guys are just filler. Like they can play in the big leagues, but they're not going to be they're never going to be great.
I think Duran is more than a filler. He could be an all-star this year. I think he's still top 10 in wins above replacement, too, in the league.
But am I nuts to look at it the way I do it? Like, all these guys is transients. They're here for 3 years, and then most of them are gone.
Some of them, yeah.
So are they going to pay Duran when he goes to arbitration and starts making money?
Yeah, I would, yeah. Until he proves that he's not that guy.
They're going to give him a long-term contract?
I don't know. I think it's riskier for position play. Like a pitcher that's a late bloomer. Like look at Zach Wheeler, right? Like he didn't become a stud until 27, like what we're talking about. But now over the last 7 years, he's led the league in wins above replacement the entire time. So like I believe more in late bloomer pitchers, but late bloomer position players, it's a little more difficult to invest in. I'm not saying I wouldn't invest in Jarren Duran, but that might be a situation where they're like, we got to capitalize on the fact that we've had these 2 really good years and maximize that because what could it become from here? Nobody knows.
So like, I guess what I'm saying is this, and I'm actually thinking out loud here. I'm trying to crystallize it. Tanner Houck is now approaching 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The Red Sox don't like to sign pitchers in their 30s.
Well, that's what John Henry said before he gave David Price $217 million over 7 years.
Okay, so but you see where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. So if you're getting these guys who are now late bloomers, but you don't want to sign pitchers in their 30s, are you going to pay them Or are you just going to let him pitch for a couple of years and then trade his ass?
I think that they would pay him, but I think the conversation just becomes difficult where it's like, who are you? You know, like for Tanner Houck specifically, guy wasn't even supposed to make the rotation this year. Now I believe he has the best wins above replacement for any pitcher in the league.
He does.
Goes tonight. And then you want to talk contract extension. Well, guess what? The Red Sox are going to come in low because they're like, well, it's only 1 year of you doing this, so we're kind of taking a risk on you by giving you this financial security. And then Houck's team is going to be like, well, look at what he just did. You don't think that we're going to be able to do this year in and year out? And the Red Sox are going to turn around and say, well, I mean, we haven't seen it, so how are we supposed to know? And then no contract gets signed. So
Correct.
It's pointless.
Right. Bingo.
Yeah.
So you end up rooting against your players because if they're too good, then you're not going to pay them anyway. So, you know, I say rooting against your players, but you know what I mean.
More so if he's a Boris guy, which I don't believe Houck is.
So next week you will not be with us. Is that correct?
I will be in Arizona for the MLB Draft Combine for MLB Network.
Okay. So I don't know if you want to plug that, but you'll be on the air plugging the actual combine. Covering the combine.
I'll be doing the interviews with the players, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And when is that going to be on?
That is Tuesday, the 17th? 17th.
Okay. And is that on at what time?
It's all day. It's all day on MLB Network. So if you're
you flying solo on that, or is there someone with you?
Nope, just me.
Wow,
just me, baby.
Jared on the draft.
That's right.
Okay, there we go.
I'm the only one.
So again, no Jared next week, but you can catch him on the MLB Network covering the MLB Combine in anticipation of the draft. Kevin Majori's got your headlines here. Joe Murray has you for the balance of the night. We'll catch you next time on the Baseball Hour, which, oh, by the way, will be next week. Because the Celtics game tomorrow night, we have Celtics pregame programming on 98.5 The Sports Hub. So no baseball hour until next week, presumably on Monday, unless there's a game 5, in which case we probably won't be on that night either. Majority's got your headlines. We'll see you later.